What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing? Before I get started talking about the possibility of James McCann being traded possibly at the winter meetings, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys, so there has been some conversation and a couple of reports that the Mets have made James McCann available in trade talks over the last couple of days. And I don't know if that's a trade just in by itself with James McCann or James McCann within a package for other trade talks that have been going on with the Mets and other teams. But James McCann, in my opinion, has to be off this team. When Sandy Alderson signed him after the 2020 season, when JT Realmuto was also available, Sandy Alderson says that he projects James McCann to be an extremely better offensive player than what he showed in his career, and he showed it the last 2 years prior to his free agency time. And Sandy Alderson also said he's a great defensive catcher, and the offense they think is going to translate coming to the New York Mets. And well, guess what? James McCann has been absolutely awful, and that great defense we were sold the bill of goods on from Sandy Alderson. Well, his defense hasn't been that good as a Met either. There's been a lot of times where he couldn't block pitches, a lot of time where his framework of pitches have declined, and the only thing that James McCann has actually done well was throwing out runners. Other than that, how many times did you see Nito have to start because there's a pitcher that does not like throwing to James McCann? We've seen it last year. We've seen it this year in 2022. It is a problem. And James McCann is going to be making $12 million over the next 2 years. And he was making less the first 2 years of the contract and will be making more his last 2 years of his contract. So having James McCann in trade talks or putting him in a possible trade package with talks of another team about getting rid of James McCann and having him out of this team makes so much sense for the New York Mets. Billy Epler did say that there's a possibility that the Mets can keep 3 catchers on the roster. I think that's crazy. You don't have 3 catchers on the roster. What does that tell you? That tells you that you really don't have a catcher that you can trust on this roster if you're going to carry 3 catchers, especially when you want an extra man on the bench. You want to use that extra player for a position player or an extra position, extra spot on the roster for a bullpen arm. So you're going to lose one of those just to have a 3rd catcher on the roster. That only means that you do not trust any of those 3 catchers to be the starter and somebody you can trust throwing them out there 5 days a week, possibly 6, and letting him go out there, control the pitching staff, give you decent offense, and provide the defense you expect from a starting catcher. And the Mets don't have that. It's just obvious. Alvarez, we still don't know if he's going to be a really good catcher, a bad catcher. We don't know, right? Could he be a Gary Sanchez catcher? Could he be a Yadier Molina catcher? Or could he be somewhere in the middle? We don't know. So you can't trust Alvarez to be the everyday catcher. Tomas Nido shown when James McCann was out this year twice. Nido played more games than James McCann, that he can be the starting catcher. Offensively, he's not great, but he's all right, but not great. Defensively, Nido, I believe, is better than James McCann. Framing, he works well with the pitchers and controlling the game, and he throws out runners. He's been better than James McCann and is not even close defensively. And offensively, let's be honest, Tomas Nido, yes, the power is not there with Tomas Nido, but James McCann hasn't had any power either, and we'll look at his stats and his contract in just a second when it comes to James McCann. But Tomas Nido should be the starter or make him the backup and make Francisco Alvarez the everyday catcher. That's the only way I think you can do it. James McCann needs to be off this roster. If it's a salary dump, go get rid of it. You just have to eat that money and give him to another team. There's teams like the Astros who are looking at Wilson Contreras. You got the Rockies, you got the Cubs, you got the Cardinals who are all looking for catchers. And if you don't want to to make it a salary dump. Maybe you want to get maybe a reliever that might have had a bad year in 2022 and want to take a chance on him, and he might have to pay half of the James McCann money. The Mets could do that. But I do expect during these winter meetings, so watch out for James McCann possibly being traded during these winter meetings. A lot of these small trades happen during the winter meetings because there's GMs, owners, executives of front offices all around the hotel that's going to be in San Diego, all talking to each other from the start of the winter meetings to the end. So all these little trades can happen during the winter meetings. So if these rumors are true and James McCann have been discussed in trades with other teams, expect James McCann to possibly be traded at these winter meetings. And you know what? I will be happy. I cannot stand James McCann. I thought it was a bad signing from day one. The Mets should have went after JT Realmuto, and Sandy Alderson sold us a bill of goods and says that James McCann was worth the 4-year contract, and it was an actual joke. And now look what we have. We don't even have a starting catcher. We're paying a catcher that's supposed to be our starter $12 million, and we might actually trade him now. And now could have a question mark at the catching position when this Mets team has question marks in the lineup and question marks in the rotation. So now we're going to add another question mark to this team because of James McCann and the lack of production that we were expecting from him that we haven't gotten and we're probably not going to get. So let's look at James McCann's contract as of right now. He's got 2 years left on his contract, $12 million a year. 2 years, $24 million left on his contract. And he's getting paid more than what he was the first 2 years as a New York Met. And with the lack of production, the injuries that he had in this season in 2022, twice he went on the injured list, and now we got to pay him $12 million. I feel very confident the Mets are going to do everything they can to either make it a salary dump or take a chance on a reliever, pay some of the money to the team for James McCann and try to get a reliever that might have had a bad year in 2022 that in years past might have had some good years, and the Mets are willing to take a chance, right? We need a lot of bullpen help. We need a lot of arms in this bullpen. So why not take a chance in that way and trade James McCann to a team that needs a catcher, pay a little bit of his contract, and get a reliever that could be a low-risk, high-reward scenario and maybe could help out this Mets bullpen. If the biggest problem with James McCann, even though his defense wasn't a complete debacle, it hasn't been what we were expecting from James McCann. But what's even makes it worse is that this is what his offense and his stats look like over the last 2 years. He played in only 61 games last year in 2022. I mean, it's basically a pandemic year. That's how many games he played. I mean, that's ridiculous. All right, injuries happen. I get it. But he batted 195, 18 RBIs, and 3 home runs. That is absolutely ridiculous. If you're going to give me those offensive numbers, you better be Yadier Molina behind the plate. You better be Johnny Bench behind the plate if you provide this crap that we call offense from James McCann. And in 2021, it wasn't a terrible year. He batted .232. The average is just not there, but it wasn't terrible. He had 46 RBIs and 10 home runs. Again, not bad, but he did play 121 games. So that's okay. But it's not what we were expecting. You can't pay a catcher $10 million a year, or in this case, $8 million for the first 2 and $12 million for the last 2, and get this type of production. It's way too much money for a catcher that you were basically almost guaranteed, according to Sandy Alderson, to get the great defense from James McCann and assume that the offense was going to be there, and it wasn't. And you can't pay a catcher that much money, and he does absolutely nothing for this lineup. And pitchers in your rotation did not want to pitch to your starting catcher that you paid all this money to. That's a huge problem. Look for the Mets to trade James McCann in this winter meetings starting on Sunday. I will be very, very happy if James McCann gets traded. I don't care where he goes, who he gets traded to, what we get. I doubt we get anything, but like I said, possibly a reliever that had a bad year last year, and maybe we take a chance on an arm like that, and you pay some of the money, or the Mets just get rid of him and trade him, and it would basically be a salary dump because I doubt they'll release him. So maybe they can get a bullpen arm that we'll take a chance on, and we'll see what happens. But look for the winter meetings, and James McCann will or possibly be traded at the winter meetings. I feel very confident that that will probably happen, and that 3 catcher on the roster probably won't happen in 2023. So with that said, guys, don't forget, guys, if you enjoy this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Let me know in the comments, guys, do you want James McCann traded, or do you want to give him 1 more year to see what he can do? $12 million a year. What do you want to do? Let me know in the comments, guys, if you think the Mets should trade James McCann and get him the heck off this roster. Once again, guys, thank you for watching, and as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.